Your coworker brings lunch from home every single day. Turkey sandwich, same container, same seat in the break room. People joke about it. Some people call it sad. Someone else says he must be struggling. 3 years later, he puts in his 2 weeks. No new job lined up. Just done. Nobody understands how. If you have ever felt embarrassed about a frugal habit of packing lunch or driving an old car or skipping around at the bar, this is not about deprivation. It is about what those choices compound into over time. And the people doing the laughing are often the ones who cannot afford to stop working. If you're 30 to 50 making decent money but watching it disappear every month, this is not a discipline problem. It is an architecture problem, and there is a number hiding inside your social spending that most people never calculate. The math is uglier than the jokes. I want to start with something that sounds obvious but is not. Being frugal is not the same as being cheap. Cheap is refusing to tip a server. Cheap is breaking a commitment to save 50 cents. Frugal is intentional. It is deciding where your money goes before social pressure decides for you. That distinction matters enormously, and almost nobody makes it when they are laughing at the person with the sandwich. Here is the real question worth asking. Why do we mock frugal habits in the first place? It is not about the sandwich. It is about what the sandwich signals. In our culture, visible spending is the proof of success. The restaurant says you can afford it. The new car says you are doing fine. The round of drinks says you belong. When someone opts out of that performance, it creates friction. It implies that the performance is optional, and that makes people uncomfortable. So they laugh. They call it cheap. They call it sad. And here's the twist nobody talks about. That laughter has a price tag, a very specific one. I call it the mock tax. It is the money you spend to avoid being mocked, not because you wanted the thing, because you did not want the judgment. The nicer car you leased because the old one was embarrassing in the parking lot. The dinner you ordered instead of the lunch you brought. The brand name item you picked because the generic felt like an admission. None of those purchases bought you happiness. They bought you social invisibility. And invisibility is one of the most expensive things you can own. Let me put a number on it, because this is where most people stop and start calculating. If your mock tax runs $400 a month, and for a lot of people in their 30s and 40s it does, that is $4,800 a year, leaving your account to fund other people's opinions of you. Invested at 7% annually over 25 years, that $400 a month becomes $304,000. $304,000 sitting somewhere else because you did not want to be the person with the old car. Picture a bar on a graph. That bar is your freedom. Every month you pay the mock tax, the bar stays flat. It does not grow, it just maintains the appearance. Now picture a second bar next to it growing quietly every month. That is what happens when you stop paying. The first bar is performance, the second bar is compounding. They cannot both go up at the same rate at the same time. You are always choosing which one grows. This is the Paycheck Lab, and that trade-off is exactly what this channel is built to show you. If this kind of math resonates, subscribe. One of these every week. Now here is what makes the mock tax so hard to see. It does not arrive as one large bill. It seeps in through 100 small decisions, each of which has a perfectly reasonable justification in the moment. You did not buy the car to impress anyone. You just felt like you had earned it after a good year. You did not order the expensive lunch to signal status. You just did not want to be the person pulling out a container in front of a client. The justifications are real. The rationalizations are sincere. But the aggregate is the thing that matters. Add it up over a year, and the number usually shocks people. Meet Claire. Claire's 34. She earns $85,000 a year, which sounds like enough. She contributes to her 401k. She is not reckless, but Claire has a social life that costs her more than she realizes. She splits the bill at dinners she did not want to attend because saying no felt awkward. She upgraded her car 2 years ago because the old one felt embarrassing dropping off a date. She almost never brings lunch to the office because the break room crowd would notice. Her mock tax, when she actually adds it up one Sunday afternoon, comes to around $380 a month. She sits with that number for a long time. She thought the problem was her salary. The problem was the invisible fee she was paying to maintain a certain version of herself in other people's eyes. Now I want to show you the other side of this, because the scary part is not what is ahead. For some of you, the scary part is already behind you. You've already been paying the mock tax for years. The question now is whether you keep paying it or you redirect it. Ramsey Solutions ran the largest study of millionaires ever conducted, 10,000 participants, and what they found consistently embarrasses the narrative that wealth comes from high salaries or lucky breaks. 94% of those millionaires lived below their means. 73% had never carried a credit card balance in their lives. 79% did not inherit their wealth. They built it through habits that frankly other people would have laughed at. 85% used a grocery list every time they shopped. 93% used coupons at least sometimes. They spent on average $235 less per month on groceries than non-millionaires. $200 less per month at restaurants. Add those two numbers together. That is $435 a month that did not go toward looking like someone who does not need to track spending. It went somewhere else. Invested at 7% over 30 years, that gap becomes roughly $528,000. The bar just grew. $528,000 built from habits people mock at lunch. The habits people laugh at are not signs of poverty. They are signs of where that money went instead. Here is the objection I hear most often, and it is a fair one. You might be thinking that frugality sounds like a miserable way to live. You're telling me to pack a sandwich and drive a beater car for 30 years so I can have money when I'm old. That does not sound like freedom. That sounds like a different kind of prison. That objection is right about one thing. Deprivation for its own sake is not the point. Cutting every small pleasure to save pennies is not the protocol here. The person who never buys coffee and packs every meal, but still has a $1,500 car payment, they cannot quite afford. That person is doing frugality wrong. They are optimizing the small stuff and ignoring the levers that actually move the number. The protocol is intentional frugality on 3 things only. Everything else spend how you want. The first lever is your biggest fixed cost. For most people, that is housing. The single most wealth-destroying decision a person can make in their 30s is buying too much house because the bank approved them for it and their friends have a nicer zip code. Keep housing at or below 30% of your net take-home. Not gross, net. The bank will offer even more. The bank wants you paying interest for 30 years. Do not take the full offer. The second lever is your car. This is where the mock tax hits hardest because the car is visible. Everyone sees it. A reliable 5-year-old vehicle paid in cash does more for your net worth than almost any other single financial decision you can make in your 30s. The wealthy people in that Ramsey study drove practical cars for years, not because they could not afford better, because they understood that a car is not an investment. It is a depreciating box that starts losing value the moment it moves. The third lever is the automatic redirect. Every dollar you free up from the first 2 needs a destination before you have a chance to spend it elsewhere. Set up an automatic transfer on payday, index fund, retirement account, brokerage. The destination matters less than the automation. Money that sits in checking disappears. Money that moves on payday compounds. That is the second term I want you to carry out of this video. Freedom compounding. It is what happens when the money you stop paying toward other people's opinions starts working for you instead. The mock tax and freedom compounding are mirror images. Every dollar that stops flowing into the first starts flowing into the second. And unlike the mock tax, which buys you comfort that fades by next week, freedom compounding buys you something that does not depreciate. It buys you the morning you wake up and realize you do not have to say yes to the bad project. The Friday you put in your 2 weeks because the job stopped being worth it. The conversation where you say no to something that does not align with what you actually want, and the no does not terrify you because you are not 3 missed paychecks from disaster. That is what the person in the break room with the sandwich already knows. Nobody calls it freedom when they see it. They call it cheap. They call it sad. They call it whatever makes the choice feel less intentional than it is. Then one day, the results look undeniable, and nobody quite understands how. Here's your protocol. 3 steps, each executable this week. Step 1 is the mock tax audit. Pull the last 3 months of statements. Look for every purchase where the primary motivation was social visibility. Not joy, not necessity, visibility. Total it up. The number will be uncomfortable. That discomfort is the point. You cannot redirect what you have not named. Step 2 is the 3-lever check. Housing, car, automatic redirect. If your housing cost is above 30% of net pay, that is the leak. If you have a car payment on a vehicle less than 3 years old, that is the mock tax at its most expensive. If you do not have an automatic transfer moving money on payday before you can see it, set one up before Friday. Step 3 is the identity reframe, and this one is harder than either of the first 2. Stop thinking of frugal habits as what you are giving up. Start thinking of them as what you are choosing instead. You are not the person who cannot afford the new car. You are the person who decided $304,000 in 25 years was worth more than the parking lot opinion. That is not poverty. That is math. The people laughing at the lunch container are not laughing at poverty. They are laughing at a choice they have not made yet. And in a decade or 2, when the results become visible, some of them will ask how you did it. You do not have to explain the whole thing. Just smile and say you kept the math. Drop a comment with your biggest mock tax. The one expense you know is mostly about appearances. I read everyone. And if you are 30 to 50 and tired of watching every raise disappear, subscribe to the Paycheck Lab. One of these every day